All right, let's break it down. Douzable is here, Ryan Wilson is there, and let's start with Patrick Mahomes, who answered quite a few questions in that opening week game. So many wondering, what's he going to do without Tyreek Hill? Answer was, same damn thing he always does, right?
Right, yeah, everybody was so concerned. What would this offense look like without Tyreek Hill? Well, everybody should have just trusted Andy Reid, the offensive genius. What he did, and I really love what he did. He went more 12 personnel, right? That's one back, two tight ends. He brought in Noah Gray and Jody Fortson, sometimes with Travis Kelce. Then he would split Travis Kelce out. That way they could have, an advantageous mismatch between Travis Kelce and a safety or a linebacker guarding him. Then they also ran the ball very effectively with Isaiah Pacheco and then also Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They ran the ball really effective. And then Patrick Mahomes, fundamentally and technique-wise, this is the best I've seen him. He spread the football around. 9 different receivers caught a pass from him. Did a really good job of finding Juju Smith-Schuster in the intermediate routes and also Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So everybody was so worried about this offense, but Andy Reid had a plan in mind. He stuck to that plan. They were more balanced on offense. And this team looks more dangerous now than they did with Tyreek Hill.
Leger, I was one of those people that was a little concerned coming into Sunday. The 1 p.m. game had Tyreek Hill playing with Tua Tagovailoa, and he absolutely balled out, and you understood why Miami went and got him. 4 p.m. window, all right, let's see what Patrick has. And as you just laid out, he's the same guy, it turns out. And as you note, Andy Reid is so incredibly important to what they do. Hall of Fame coach, obviously there. Hall of Fame quarterback soon to be at some point when he retires. And Patrick Mahomes. It almost seems like it doesn't matter who's out there. Of course it does. Travis Kelce also probably headed to the Hall of Fame. Juju Smith-Schuster was a man among boys when he had Antonio Brown opposite him in Pittsburgh. Less so when he had to be the number one. But here he doesn't have to be the number one, and that's what makes it so important. And a name we barely mentioned because he only caught one pass, but it was for 30 yards, is Sky Moore, their day 2 pick last draft. He's going to get more involved as well. So the pieces are still there offensively. Patrick Mahomes hasn't lost anything, and you mentioned Isaiah Pacheco. 7th rounder, led the team in rushing, averaged over 5 yards per carry. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked great running the ball, averaged over 6 yards per carry. So again, I think the Chiefs are going to be okay without Tyreek.
Certainly they were all right against the Cardinals. Maybe more of a challenge in this game against that revamped Chargers defense. That's really where they put most of the focus in the offseason. They're not even full strength yet, but a great debut.
Oh, man, you have to love what they did in the offseason as far as acquiring Khalil Mack. And then also on the defensive line, Austin Johnson, and also Sebastian Day-Joseph. These guys struggled stopping the run last year. This first week, they did a really good job. This league is run by passers and pass rushers. And then you saw what Nick Bosa and Khalil Mack did. It looked like Khalil Mack found a fountain of youth. I know he's been beat up the last 2 years, but 3 sacks. And then Joey Bosa, a sack and a half. Derwin James, he's weapon X for them. They move him all up and down the defense. They play him in the box at dime safety, play him as a deep middle safety, play him in the slot. There was even a play where I saw he guarded Devontae Adams, one-on-one coverage. So this defense looks really good. And you talked about it, right? If J.C. Jackson potentially comes back, they're not all the way fully healthy. The sky's the limit for this defense.
Yeah, more on J.C. Jackson in a second. Ryan, what do you think of the Chargers' defensive performance and moving forward?
Yeah, it was lights out. And look, they weren't playing the Cardinals. No offense to that offense or lack thereof in Arizona. They were playing the Raiders, a high-powered offense with Derek Carr, the aforementioned Devontae Adams, Josh McDaniels dialing up the plays. They intercepted Derek Carr 3 times, 3 different players, including Asante Samuel Jr., the former second-round pick, who is also balling out. And to Leger's point, here's the deal. It is an arms race in the AFC West in terms of high-powered quarterbacks throwing for tons of yards and tons of touchdowns. And you have to thwart that up front. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and also in the secondary, Derwin James, J.C. Jackson. We'll see how healthy Jackson is, whether he's ready this week or not. But the long-term plan is to slow up these other offenses while you also have some guy named Justin Herbert who's pretty good at his job too.
You mentioned J.C. Jackson, Leger. He's a game-time decision tonight, missed week 1 with an ankle injury. What's he going to bring this team when he gets back and healthy?
It frees up Derwin James so much more because last week they put him in the slot a little bit at dime linebacker. But with J.C. Jackson, what it allows you to do is maybe put him on the outside and move Asante Samuel Jr. in at the slot, and you still got Mike Davis on the outside. So you can just be so much more multiple. Brandon Staley is a defensive genius. He can move those defensive pieces around. So if you have J.C. Jackson in the fold, a guy that's a perennial Pro Bowl corner, right, he can play in the slot. He can play in the outside. It allows you to mix things up. That way the offensive team, they don't really know where you're coming from as far as blitzing Derwin James, or they don't know who's covering who. They don't know who's covering the slot. They don't know who's covering the outside. So as far as, J.C. Jackson potentially coming back today, it would be a big boost for this defense, even though they were dominant last week, because it makes them so much more multiple.
So they might have J.C. Jackson. They're not going to have Keenan Allen,
Yeah.
Ryan. What is that going to do for the Chargers against a Chiefs team that's full strength?
Look, Keenan Allen is one of the best route runners in the NFL. There's no doubt about it, and he is incredibly important to what Justin Herbert does. But much like the Chiefs, there are other options, and perhaps you could argue better options. Mike Williams, for example, he had a huge game. Josh Palmer, the former day 2 pick out of Tennessee, he came on strong last season as a rookie, should get more looks. DeAndre Carter had a huge game last week. You see his name right there. Undrafted out of Sac State in 2015. He has played on 9 teams. I think he found the right team last week in Los Angeles. Gerald Everett is that athletic tight end who can stretch the middle of the field. So there will be options there. And Austin Eckler, we haven't even talked about, who does what he does in the running game, but is also so incredibly hard to match up against when he gets the ball in his hands in the passing game. So they're going to miss Keenan Allen, no doubt about it. But there are other options, and there are a lot of other options, including Jalen Guyton, who only saw the field for 5 snaps last week. Expect to see him more tonight against the Chiefs.
I'm so glad that you brought up my guy, DeAndre Carter. I played with him in San Francisco in 2017, and I'm just so enthused and happy that he's finally getting the opportunity. Mainly just been a specialist, a return guy, but last week came in 3 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown. If you're in a 12-team, 14-team fantasy, roster thing, you might want to pick up this guy because, again, he came up and showed up big. So now the trust factor with the quarterback and the receiver, now Justin Herbert trusts him. This is a guy that could potentially go off today. Mike Williams, I think, has a bounce-back game as well. But DeAndre Carter, again, if you're in a 12-team or 14 fantasy league, you might want to pick this kid up today.
A little fantasy advice from Leger as well. We're going to have some more fantasy insight coming your way in just a little bit. When you look at these two teams, they're the only teams without a loss yet in this division, and that means that after tonight, assuming there's not a tie, everybody's going to have a loss in this division except for the winner tonight. Chiefs, still the favorites, plus 125 to win the division. Chargers, plus 190. How do you see the AFC West and these two teams in particular right now?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, tonight, 4 points, and if you could buy it up to 4.5, definitely take the Chargers. If you look at Justin Herbert and what he's done at Arrowhead Stadium, he's 2-0 in his career, right? 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and completing nearly 70% of his passes. I think the Chargers win tonight. I think they win this division. Plus 190, definitely buy in on that right now. I think they win the division. I think the Chiefs come in second, followed by the Las Vegas Raiders. And I know a lot of people are going to look at me crazy, but I think the Broncos are in the last team. And I said this before the Monday night performance, right? I just think with that team and Russell Wilson, he struggled the last couple of years. Yeah, I know he had the thumb injury, but as far as, quarterbacks and the elite quarterbacks in that division, I think he's either third or fourth in that division when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. So honestly, take the Chargers, right? Plus 190, I think that's a for sure bet right there for you.
Leger, I don't think you're crazy. Not only that, I'm cheating off your paper because I have the exact same lineup. I have the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Broncos for the same reasons. Look, is Russ Wilson great? Absolutely. He is coming to a new program. Turns out Nathaniel Hackett might be over his head after one game. I didn't count for that. But those other 3 teams are lights out. And I thought I was doing something when I picked the Chargers to win the Super Bowl before the season, but I have a lot of faith in them. Sounds like you do too. I like them to win the division, especially at that number. The Chiefs ain't going to roll over for them. We know that. But I think this is finally the year that the Chargers don't charger it up late in the season and find ways to win those games they would typically lose.
All right, let's get our top player props for tonight's game between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Leger, you got a couple for us.
I got a couple. Austin Eckler, you talked about it. He struggled in game 1. I like him to get over 4.5 receptions. I think you got to realize on a short week, right, the game plan isn't as big because the coaches don't have as much time to really put a game plan together. Check downs will be a big thing. I think Justin Herbert finds Austin Eckler a couple times on check downs. I think he gets at least 5 catches. I think he goes over the 4.5 receptions. And then also Patrick Mahomes, if you look at what the Chargers do, they play a lot of man coverage, right? 13.5 rush yards. I think he goes over that one. He might do it in one play, right? If everybody's back is turned to the quarterback, he might take off and get a 20-yard scamper. I think over on the 13.5 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes.
Leger, I like the granularity of those bets there. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going over touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes. It's 2.5. You get a plus number, plus 106. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes in the last 2 matchups in these games. Threw 5 last week. Again, that Chargers defense is going to be much better than the Cardinals defense. But look, when you're throwing touchdown passes to Joe Fortson, tight end, I guess. That means you got plenty of guys to throw the football to. Joe Porter's had 1 catch for 1 yard in the end zone, had the 2 touchdown passes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we know the great touchdown pass to Travis Kelce. I expect him to get that number tonight. I just expect Justin Herbert to do a little better.
All right, we're going to get you the stats that matter, presented by Penske. When you gain the right transportation partner, your business gains ground. And here's the stat that many are talking about going into this one. Justin Herbert, 2-0 in his young career at Arrowhead. Now, one of those games was a meaningless game for the Chiefs. They did not start Patrick Mahomes. But nonetheless, 2-0 at Arrowhead, and the numbers are great. 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Chiefs still favored by 4 points in this game. Leger, you said you'd like the Chargers to win this division, and I'm thinking maybe even more than a sprinkle on the money line from you.
Oh, 100%. To me, you take the points, but if you really want to win some money, take the Chargers in the money line. I think they're going to win this game straight out. Yes, I know Keenan Allen is out, but again, you saw the numbers. We just put it on the screen for you. Justin Herbert has been a man amongst boys when he's gone into Arrowhead. Now, to your point, one of those games didn't really count. The Chiefs didn't play their starters. But, in his 4 games, he's played really well against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they find a way to go into Arrowhead and get this win.
Yeah, I like them covering the +4. I like them winning. I'm with you, Leger. And by the way, yeah, he's 2-0 in Arrowhead. One of those games without Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert is 2-2 all time against the Chiefs. Both those losses were overtime losses. The very first one, his rookie season, wasn't even supposed to play. Tyrod Taylor got that weird collapsed lung injection. Went out there, should have won that game. Anthony Lynn got a little conservative late in the game. They had a chance to win it on the shoulders of Justin Herbert, who was making his first NFL start. He will not be afraid. The moment will not be too big. I think they go in there and win that game.
All right, Ryan Wilson, thank you. Leger going to be back in just a little bit with us here on HQ as we get you ready for Thursday Night Football tonight. Pick 6 crew, they're ready to go as well. The latest episode with Brady Quinn breaking down some of the biggest storylines in the NFL, including that new Vikings Unleashed offense. They've got a big one on Monday night this week against the Eagles.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.